Okay, great. All right, so first things first. This is the agent workspace, right? This is where you're going to be working in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple. The only apps you're going to be using is one, the Leads app, two, your Appointments app, which is the calendar, and then really these are it. And then when you get contracts, they'll be here in listings and then investment deals. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll go through each one right now, and very clearly explain what needs to be done. So immediately once you get a new lead assigned to you, it's going to be right here in New Leads. Okay, so you can click that; it'll appear right here immediately. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then by the way, also once we get another agent, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have this split by agent. So it'll look like this, except it'll be like Virginia and then agent two, agent three. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So at that point you obviously would click on just your lead. So you would click on your name, which would be right here. So like
Yeah.
you see that there's 13 here, and then when you
Yeah.
click here, there's 7. So so yeah, just to tell you that. Okay. But as soon as let's just go to all leads. As soon as you open up a lead, let's say this is a new lead. Okay. The property address will appear right here at the top. All right. You're already gonna be assigned, so that's gonna be already your name. Um, if you can, whenever you get a chance, by the way, just put a picture there. It's just
Okay.
nice and easy for us. Don't worry about changing this. This is important. Don't change the overall status. This actually changes on its own. So this automatically changes based on what you click down here. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the agent workspace. This is the space that you will be operating in.
Okay.
So this will tell you how when to call them back. All right, which should be immediately. 99% of the time it's going to be immediately. Give them a call as soon as you get this. The good news is, as soon as you get a lead assigned to you, I don't know if this has been happening yet, but you receive a text. You will receive a text to your phone.
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
beautiful.
for example, this morning, right, with this one in Baltimore, I called him and I left him a voicemail. So
Okay,
I called him as soon as I got the notice because I was here in the office. I logged into the system
okay,
and I called him right away. I left a voicemail.
okay, great. Okay, all
So
right.
what should I do in this particular case?
Hey, and that's what I'm going to go through right now. Okay, so that's actually the next part. So contact status. Essentially, what this means is when we're trying to get in contact with them to confirm the appointment. So uh, the first thing that it'll have is it'll have no attempt automatically clicked because we haven't attempted to call them. If we attempt to call them but they don't pick up, you click call attempt 1.
Okay.
What this does is it sends them a text as well saying, "Hey, we tried to call you, blah 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 blah. Give me a call back. This is my number." And then it actually has your number here. Okay. Um, Same thing with call attempt 2. Let's say you try to call them back, maybe an hour later or 5 hours later, and they still don't pick up. You click call attempt 2. It sends them another text, and then you keep going through 3 and 4. By the way, when you get to a large amount of leads that will be in this system, you're going to want to create follow-up tasks for yourself. So all the way at the bottom, right here, is tasks,
Okay.
and then you can add a task for yourself. And then you say, yep, right here. Let's follow up with Jack Johnson, for example. And then you will assign it to yourself. And then pick a day, and this is especially very useful. And like I said, one, when you have a lot of leads, and two, when you're setting yourself up to follow up, let's say tomorrow or 2 days from now, and you're probably not going to remember that. If you have so many leads, you're probably not going to remember that in your head.
Yeah.
So use these tasks very diligently. This is going to be one of your best friends is the tasks. So and
And
then
when you create that task, obviously it will go into the Podio calendar, right? And then when I sync with mine, it will also go into mine, right?
It will not go to your calendar because after you get a lot of, so for example, let's just say this, right? And then you can say remind me. Hang on. So it won't go to your calendar, but it will go to your tasks. I'm about to show you right now.
Okay.
You can also do a remind me, and what that does is it will pop up a little thing here, and it'll remind you, and I think it will remind you on your app as well. So if you want to, if let's say if you're doing it like 2 3 days in advance, or even tomorrow, and you want a 10-minute reminder, just go ahead and click 10 minutes before. Okay. So yeah, it says you'll be reminded on Saturday to 2:50 p.m.
What is your best practice, for example, when you leave a voicemail? When do you try to call back?
It depends what stage it's in, but if it's in new contact stage where you haven't contacted them yet, I would try to call them back. Well, once, obviously, definitely within, once immediately, right? So within 30 minutes of when our standard is, we want to contact and confirm the appointment within 30 minutes of when they got off the phone. When we got off the phone with the seller, pretty much, and we're handing it off to you. After that, I would say, depending on what time it is, it could be 10 a.m., it could be like 6 p.m. But I would say, an hour, just even an hour after. And then, like I said, depending on the day, it could be the next day. But I would try to call them like at least 3 times in one day, just to confirm it. Because typically we're going to be setting our appointments for 24 to 48 hours from the day that we talk with them.
Okay.
Okay. So, here is, so that's what this is for. Call time 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of these, keep in mind, they all send texts to the seller saying, hey, call me back. Okay.
Okay.
And then when you contact them, obviously click contacted. Okay. So let's just say, for example, we contacted this person. The appointment date and time will be right here. So you're just going to confirm that with them. And since we'll have your calendar synced with ours, we're going to go ahead and make sure that this works for you.
Right.
Beforehand, before setting it. Right now, we're just setting the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what we're doing right now. So that's what the contact status is. So again, once you contact them, say, hey, this is Virginia. We gave you a script, actually. Did you get that?
No, I don't.
All right. Hang on. Okay. So over here in SOPs, these are your standard operating procedures. You can always refer to this if you have a question on any systematic issues, questions, or any procedural questions. Okay? So these are just your standard operating procedures. You can click description here to sort it. So you do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, great.
So call the new lead, confirm the appointment, prepare for the appointment, go on the appointment, investment deal ratified, listing agreement ratified, and then add to follow up, right?
Okay.
So, for example, you just asked me about confirm the appointment. So here we have a script. Okay. So here's script agent. It's very straightforward. It's not too long. We don't want it to be too long anyways because here's the thing, we're building all the rapport here. And we want you guys to be almost like an extension of that. And so that way, you can build all the rapport when you go on the appointment.
Right.
Which is probably even more powerful that way.
Yeah.
So again, refer to these SOPs if you have any questions.
Okay.
And they all have videos attached to them. Okay. All right. So again, going back to this lead. So we contact them. The appointment date is set. You just confirm it. If it's good for you and it's good for them, then you just click confirmed. Okay. Now confirm status. So this is about the appointment date. So if for whatever reason they need to reschedule, and they have not. So this is important for you to understand the difference. If they have not given you a time to reschedule or a date, then click this, right?
Okay.
So this is kind of like an action, like saying, "Hey, we need to reschedule this," right? But if you do reschedule with someone and they have a date and time in mind, let's say tomorrow, always try. I mean, this is just standard. I'm sure you know this. Always try to, if they reschedule or if you're just making an appointment, always try to do it as soon as possible, because that way the lead doesn't get cold. So if you need to reschedule, and they haven't given you a date yet, then you click this. That way to give them a call back and confirm a good date and time for them. But if they did, then you can click confirmed here. Okay. So again, this is just to confirm the appointment, right? And if for whatever reason they don't want to, they don't want to either see. If they don't want to see you or whatever it is, if whatever the reason is that they just cancel altogether, then just click this. It's going to send it back to us. And then we're going to follow up with them and then say, hey, what happened? Okay?
Great. Okay.
All right. Okay. So after you go on the appointment, you can click completed here. Okay? But other than that, you're kind of just going to keep updating the appointment date. We talked about this, and this is kind of the best way to do it for us. So, because I know this happens a lot, if they don't keep the appointment for whatever reason, like I said, if they completely flake and they just don't respond, you can click reschedule and then take out the appointment date. Or you just follow up with them and you keep basically following up with them until you get an appointment, and then you put it here. Okay. But again, once you go on the appointment, it's completed. You click this button here, and then you let us know if it was an investment contract, if you got the ratification, if you got the listing agreement, or if there was no deal, and then you need to add it to the follow-up. Okay.
Okay, so that's something that we need to clarify because as far as I understand, I'm not talking on the investment side. So,
Sure. So what is it that you want clarification with? Because this is probably one of the most important parts of this model is that we're putting a lot of trust in you, Virginia. We're putting a lot of trust in you and other agents that we're working with. And that's why we want to be very, very selective on who we are working with. When we met with you the first time, we were very pleased, and we thought that you would be a great agent to work with. Given that it's been a little rocky so far, just because of lack of systems and lack of training. But I do believe that we can. I do believe that we can definitely trust you, and I'm looking forward to that, and that's why the only reason why that you are working with us, because we can trust you.
right.
So go ahead.
So my understanding so far is that when I go to the listing appointment is for people that decided that they didn't want to work on the investment side, right? And they just wanted to list the property on the market. So my appointment with them is just to talk about the listing side. If you want me to talk about the investment side, that's fine. I guess I will need to see a copy of the contract. I will need to know what price you offer them. But I have not been involved in any of those conversations so far. So that would be something that we will need to clarify.
Absolutely. And I was not aware that that was not clarified. So, yeah, we can clarify that right now. And to that point, because it's going to be something that you've never done before, and most agents have never done something like that before, so we're going to have to do a separate training on that specifically, so we can, obviously, your listing side. That's what you know. That's what you're good at and you're great at. But we just want to let you know how we plan on presenting this to the seller, because that actually is not the case right now. So the case right now is it could be either an investment or a listing, and more often than not, it's obviously going to be the listing. That's just the nature of our business, all right? However, you're going to be presenting them both options. We have a sheet, and we have actually a few pieces of literature explaining the difference between the two, and giving them and then we also have like a little sheet that you can. It's like a little table. Excuse me, and we can train you on how to delineate the differences between the two.
Okay.
So
a good example is the appointment that I went on Friday, right? It was 2610 Evers Street. She basically said, "Oh, I'm waiting to hear from you guys. What would be the price
cash price
that you would offer me if you buy the property?" So I sent that feedback back to Daryl, and Daryl said, "Oh, I'm so sorry for the confusion. We are still actually engaging her in purchasing the property, for a wholesale deal." So there was a lot of confusion on that, and he said that he was going to follow up with her. So I have not followed up with her because Daryl asked me for time to figure it out on his end if this was going to be a wholesale deal. But I went
recording. I paused for a second. So to that point, right? So this is where you're working, right? Agent Workspace, here to here. That's it. That's where you're editing. Okay? That's the only places that you're going to be clicking around and then, updating things and typing in prices and things like that. However, down here is all the seller and property information, right?
Yeah.
So it's if they're distressed, they're not distressed, what kind of occupancy it is, the details of the property, if they're negotiable, what's their asking price, the ARV and offer range, right? And then you can print the contracts here. By the way, before you go on the appointment, actually, I should have mentioned this earlier, right? So when you're in this stage, between here and here, right? Before you go on the appointment, but when it's confirmed, you want to print out our contract, okay? So we will have our investment price filled in, what we need the contract for, and so you can just type that in right here. Let's say it's $140,000. You're gonna want to choose which contract, right? It's only gonna be one of these three. All right. So if there's tenants, you put tenants. If it's owner occupied, put vacant. And then you're gonna know that with this right here. So if there's tenants, we would click tenants. The EMD, okay, EMD will almost always be $500, okay. And then, depending on the conversation, but more often than not, go ahead and click paid in full by buyer, the closing costs, okay. And this is all standard, given that this isn't a specific scenario, which, let's say it is, let's say the owner lives there or whatever the case is. Typically, if it's vacant, we want to do 14 days. If it's, owner occupied, we want to just give them 30 days. But the point of these different contracts is because these actually all have different terms in there that